The next is Section 9.2, a discussion and possible awarding of bids for the reconstruction of Gordon Park Phase 1 project. And we had a discussion about this on Monday night, a rather long discussion. I went through the bids, and we were to go back and have some cash flow analysis done and make sure we had all of our numbers correct. And where do we end up?
I'm going to turn the floor back over to Mr. Ashby. We talked about this at our meeting. You were going to make it so
I thought there was a staff recommendation.
Oh, I'll make it. Staff recommendation is that.
I support your staff recommendation.
Had what?
Had a finance committee meeting this
afternoon.
Okay.
Staff recommendation will be to tell the board that we should probably table it and until the property is sold.
Postpone the renovation.
It would be very prudent for us.
Can you explain for the public why we're...
It would be very prudent for us.
Right. What we heard was that, or what I heard this afternoon was that it would not necessarily until it's sold, but until we had clarity or until such a time as we thought we had a much more certain understanding of how we were going to dispose of that and what we were going to do.
Since I wasn't at your committee meeting, and several of us, other of us weren't,
Just make a recommendation.
can you explain to us why, what changed, what other information did you have, or what changed that you would, we were trying to figure out, Monday night we were trying to figure out a way to take, we have no proceeds from the sale, because our sale at Gordon Park is currently, we currently do not have a contract. There are still developers who are interested in it. We have public court approval to sell it, but we do not currently have a buyer. So we have no money from that sale. On the other hand, we were trying Monday night to figure out a way through the money that we did have in the Park District coffers and the money we'd saved over the years to figure out a way to renovate half of Gordon Park without having the proceeds from the sale. And we didn't feel like we had enough information, so we asked the staff to look, to maybe sharpen their pencils, as we would say, and see if we could figure it out to make it work. And the answer was?
The answer is there's still not enough money in reserve. We would be draining our reserves to a point where it would be scary under the current tax situation, not knowing where we're getting tax proceeds. It's still uncertain yet. We just don't have enough money. We've spent a lot of money on the court case, and it's just not there.
So there's not money to do it at this time. Go ahead.
So you said the funding it out of existing reserves would deplete those reserves to
Correct.
a unacceptable, in your opinion, level.
Correct.
How low would it go?
Down to almost zero.
How close? Give me a number. Zero?
Zero.
55.
Okay, fine. So when you had your pencils nice and sharp, did you consider the possibility of issuing revenue bonds based off the revenue that theoretically could be anticipated from this fitness center?
No, we did not. We talked a little bit about revenue bonds on the fitness center, but it wasn't earmarked for this kind of property, right, for this project right away. We did talk about that we would look into. I didn't know for sure how that would play. We do have sufficient time under the grant, deadlines of the grant, to start the project next year, or even in April of the following year. So it was just...
So you're saying by virtue of not allocating funds for this renovation now, we're not endangering the grant that we got for the renovation?
Correct.
Okay. So we can still possibly take advantage of the grant. We have we're awarded a $400,000 grant from the state of Illinois, which in order to take advantage of that grant, we have to spend a lot of money on infrastructure improvements to the park, and we have to put in certain elements that they wanted to see in the park, or they approved the grant based on. There is a deadline by which we have to have those improvements in, but we think that we could hold off starting the renovations another year and still make that deadline at this point until we had more money. It's like if you're trying to improve your house and you don't have enough money in the bank, maybe you wait and save a little bit more until try it next year. So that's the point that we find ourselves at.
And the reason you don't have the money in the bank is because somebody sued you and you had to defend yourself in court. And you had a lot less money when you're all done paying your lawyer.
And the defense in court took 3.5 years. Don't forget that part.
That's true. That there, the cost of changing the project, and we've even scaled the project back down, so it's just,
Okay.
You can't even do half of it.
I think we've been pretty consistent from the initiation of this that we needed, as well, that it would be very helpful in completing this project to get some amount of revenue to monetize some of that unneeded land. This situation hasn't gotten any better in the meantime.
Yeah,
And if we have a buyer come up, and if we have cash, we can
Change the whole
reconsider.
project.
We can reconsider it right away.
I guess
my recommendation would change then.
the reason that I asked the initial question, just so that hopefully it's a little bit clearer, it's not that I doubt the accuracy of these projections. It's that I learned a couple of meetings ago, the last meeting I attended, that the consensus of opinion seems to be that the fitness center would be a net positive from a revenue standpoint. And I don't know how much stock I'd put in that, but if it's true, then I wanted to see how that would play out with respect to the possibility of using some of those funds to do Gordon Park. And now I have an answer to that.
Okay.
I think one other point, on Monday we had talked about the deadline for the grant, maybe being mid-2012 or April 2012. It's actually the end of 2012.
Yeah, our contract.
So we do have more time to complete that
Our
construction.
contract at the end of the year, 2012.
So it's actually December of 2012, so we have another 6 months that we didn't know we had.
We theoretically, according to the timelines we were given, we could start this construction, in the spring of 2012 and still complete the construction and meet the grant.
Or even in the fall of 2012.
Anything,
No,
as
fall of
long as we've
2011.
spent it.
Or 2012,
Right,
yeah. Right.
exactly. Anytime, we could start it next month if we think we have clarity on the revenue from the sale of the land. It would be board decision, but I would think staff would review it and maybe review their recommendation.
I'm in favor of tabling this.
Any other consensus?
Well,
Yeah, consensus.
I think there's a question of whether our actions then lead to a canceling of bids, Ron? Would we have to not?
Well, you receive the bid, and I suppose the board should decide to reject all bids.
Yeah, that's.
Since it's not on the agenda.
Yeah, it's possible awarding.
I'm not sure.
Yeah,
I'm
they're
sure
there
all the
now.
bids have
I
a
think all the bids-
time limit. They're probably good for 30 days
How
or
about if
something
we,
and go away.
I'm just asking if we.
I'd like to suggest that we table this until next month and get an opinion from our general contractor,
Right.
not general contractor, our contract manager.
Construction manager.
Construction
Regarding
manager.
whether we have to reject the bids.
So there's just so I have some clarity, there is no motion currently on the floor, right?
There isn't one.
So when you say tabling it, you were speaking colloquially. We're not going to talk about this.
Until you could make a motion to table it.
There's no motion to table.
Correct.
All right.
And we didn't have a motion Monday, I don't think either.
So, yes, you would just put this on as an action, as an item for discussion and possible awards at the next meeting.
I would agree
We're
with
not.
that. At a minimum, would the board agree to copy this agenda item to the next
To the
meeting?
next, and we can put it under old.
That's fine, I guess.
Put it under old business.
Is it
Your first item
Because it
under
won't
old
be new
business.
anymore.
That's right.
Okay.
Is it your understanding, Dean, that we have to take any affirmative action on the bids, or we can just let them expire?
You have to, I'm pretty sure you have to reject what you're not going to do.
No, and I haven't read the bid, but from a practical standpoint, they all have life expectancy.
Right.
But if you decided by the next meeting not to proceed with the project, you should reject the bid, not for the substance of the bids themselves, but because the project isn't moving forward.
And if
Just
we-
so those contractors understand the reason, and it doesn't have anything to do with that.
Well, fair enough. I'd like to ask Dave a question. How long are the bids really good for? Because if it's good for 90 days or whatever, and something should happen between this time frame, we already have a locked-in price. so that, let's see when the deadline is, and then reject the bids at that point, at least we have these prices locked.
Right.
Which incidentally was, what, 15% of what we budgeted?
Yeah, he had
As a
winter
whole?
contingencies and some other
So-
stuff already built in.
So they were good bid prices. That was not the issue.
No, that's not the issue.
Even at a 15% discount, we get afford it.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, we
Not-
would get a lot cheaper. A lot. Okay.
Okay, well then, let's colloquially table this to next month.
I'm never going to hear it again. I
Okay.
made my
Then let's move to item 9.3.